Let's go ahead and bring in Steiner Sports CEO, Brandon Steiner.
One of the country's top memorabilia mogul.
I have an unbelievable guest, Brandon Steiner.
Brandon's second to none.
Joining me, Kim Jones, NFL Network. You listen to her on WFAN on the weekends, and has done some great special reporting along the lines of back with the Penn State issue. That's my first real intro to you, even though I probably saw you 100 times at Yankee Stadium, but that was like the most serious reporting when all that was going on. First of all, welcome.
Thank you, Brandon. You got a great place here.
I'm trying to figure it out. It's 30 years. I'm getting old. I better figure it out soon. But thanks for coming up. You know what I love about your story is the progress, because I know how hard. You go to school for journalism. I think you went to Penn State, right?
I did go to Penn State.
So it's like, it's not, at that time, it's a little easier maybe for women now, but it wasn't that easy 10, 15 years ago.
I wish it was 10 years ago, but yes.
But yeah. It's hard to break into this business. For you, hard or?
I think it's hard. I think it's rewarding, though, to work your way up, and rewarding to write for a paper covering Penn State. Circulation, I think around 30,000 at the time. The Center Daily Times, and then get an opportunity at the Star Ledger years later, and then having some opportunities that I never would have imagined in TV come about. So, rewarding is how I would look at it. I tend to be glass half full, so while there are challenges, I kind of embrace those, and they're part of every day, but I think that's okay. And I think the rewarding part of it far outweighs any of that.
How heavy has the glass been, even though it's half full? Is there a lot of responsibility that, people look to you now because you're on the radar?
I think there is. I do take to heart the idea that people need to be able to trust me. And I know when I look at the people I trust in life, in media, in entertainment, whatever the case might be, it's because I feel like they're real and I feel like they're right. And I just feel like we have to be right, even though the climate we live in now has so many different opportunities in media and different forms of media than I ever would have dreamed when I first started in this business. I still think at the cusp of it is being knowledgeable, being prepared, being right, and being trusted. So that's kind of how I go about it. Every day I probably fall short a little bit in every place, but you try to not fall short.
But is the pressure the story grab? Because everybody's trying to get, as opposed to getting it right? Is that what you're?
Yeah, right. You want to be out there. You want to get it first. You want to get it, and you still want to be first. Listen. I keep score. Your halls here are filled with people who kept score.
Oh, it's no question.
And I love keeping score.
Yeah.
And I keep score every day.
Yeah.
And that's both my best and worst characteristic, probably. But I love that part of it. But to me, I hate losing more than I like winning. And I'm not a coach. I'm not a player. But just in life, that's how I look at it. But yeah, it's neat to get a story. If you break something in New York, Brandon, you've done something.
It's big.
Because it is incredibly competitive here, I think, as everyone knows.
There's a lot of talent, a lot of good talent, a lot of good journalism going on. The NFL situation, you're going into another season, and you're in the middle of it with the NFL Network. What do you see happening this fall? Can the league get itself back on track? Or is it really isn't on track, and it's just the critical people that are saying, but maybe because it seems like more people loving the game than ever.
Well, if you look at TV ratings overall, they're down, and the NFL is not down like others. Has the NFL lost ratings? Yes, and so has everyone else. I'm not going to sit here and lobby you about NFL TV ratings. I do think the NFL is mostly healthy. I always think we, as people, me as an individual, the NFL, any entity can get better. And I think the NFL has great stories with players who do great things in the community. I think there are players who obviously do great things on the field. Hopefully in the New York Giants case, they're going to get some healthy people back and be that way this year. Hopefully with the Jets,
they've wondering about wondering about with all the stuff that goes on off the field, can that get at some point?
You mean the anthem and everything else?
Between the anthem, the shootings, the violence, there's been so many things off the field that have happened. Do you feel the pressure of having to report about that because you're working for the NFL Network, so you're kind of stuck in between?
Well, no, I will always report on news, though. Okay. I mean, we don't shy away from news of any kind.
You're not getting that kind of pressure to have to worry about that?
No. And I do think the healthiest thing, and I said this on WFAN the other day, I do think the healthiest thing that's happened with the anthem issue is the owners and players are now going to sit down and actually talk to each other and then come up with whatever they come up with, I have to believe, before the opener this season. I think it's healthy to have dialogue.
Like, I'm a fan of the kneeling, just not the national anthem. Like, why can't we kneel to start the second half? I like a little disruption. I'm okay with the radical part of it. I just think that's already been taken. The national anthem is already taken. There's another vision there on that to protect all the people that are fighting for us, for our freedom. But kneeling, because I think they have a point. Like we should be speaking up about trying to get some of this stuff fixed in our communities, the disruption between people in these neighborhoods and the police. But let's mess up the beginning of the second half. Let's put a little delay on that, or in the middle of the fourth quarter or something like that. That would create a little disruption. I'm up for that.
I do think the anthem being the focus has taken away what the players actually want their focus to be.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I love you on the fan when I do catch when I'm driving. Do you like that platform, being a host?
I love it.
It seems like you're having a lot of fun.
Love it.
Because you got a program, you're controlling the dialogue.
You just sit there and talk to people. I love it. The calls, I'm lucky. The calls this spring and summer have been jacked the whole time I'm on. Very rarely.
You got a fan base.
Very rarely do I have to. But people are also passionate. They're passionate about the Mets for different reasons than the Yankees, but they're passionate about both. Often you hear more from the losing operation, so there have been much more Mets calls when I've been on than Yankees calls. But they're passionate about the NFL. They're passionate about their sports, and I just love it. And they want to also be heard. And I understand that. And one thing I do, Brandon, on my weekend shows is I'll invite storytelling. Now, I have to control that to some degree. I can't let someone hijack the program. But I will give a caller a little bit more leeway. And, I had a great story this summer about the American goldfinch. I mean, we talk about birds on the show, and I don't know how it happened. But it was fun, and people mentioned it to me after the fact. Loved hearing about the goldfinch. I'm like, yeah, the odds of that happening were none. And we got it. We got a good story out of it.
Well, you're driving, and, it's a lot of time to pass, especially these days in New York.
Right,
there's so much traffic.
You're
not getting anywhere quick.
That's right.
So there needs to be some entertainment value, and you can always listen to the music, but the conversation, if it's good, it's good. How hard was it though to make the transition in your first job? Graduating, but a lot of people out there, they want to break into what you're doing. How hard is it to break into what you're doing, and what do you suggest?
Well, and I was a newspaper writer, and that was my focus. I just told the kids at Bruce.
So you're a true journalist.
Camp, yeah. I mean, I was a newspaper writer. My goal was to write for Sports Illustrated. And as I just told that group of kids who were ages 13 to 18 or so, I'm going to fall short of the dream I had when I was their age. But you know what? That's okay, because some other things have come along. Now, the TV part, Brandon, I talk to young people, sometimes especially young women reach out to me, but young men do as well. And they kind of want the yellow brick road to a broadcasting career. And I am not the person to give it to them, because I was a newspaper writer at the Star-Ledger when John Filippelli from Yes asked me to audition. I couldn't do it because I was at the Super Bowl in Jacksonville. He, after the fact, asked me to audition at a different time. I thought to myself, I'm going to go audition just so this guy leaves me alone, because I'm not a TV person. I'm not a Yankees expert, and I wasn't a Yankees expert. I'm still not.
But John is, though.
He is. Flip is, absolutely. But
so he must have seen something.
He saw something, but I truly don't know what, because it was a rough transition. It's hard. It was hard for me to acclimate to the camera and telling a story quickly, or at least more quickly than you would in print when you have 1,000 words to write. That's a lot of words.
Especially when you want to get it right.
Exactly. So there were a lot of growing pains in 2005. If Twitter was alive and well, they would have tweeted me off the air probably. I was lucky. I made it. But it took a lot of work, and it was a lot of, sleepless nights, because I knew I wasn't good at it. And that's a hard thing to, you've got to come to terms with it, but then you have to figure out what you're going to do. Are you going to quit or walk away or get fired? Or are you going to fight because it's your career? And I've always needed a paycheck.
Take me through the fight, though. Consulting? Do you have somebody help you, coach you?
I had some people who would reach out and help. Listen, Mike and the Mad Dog on their program would talk about how bad I was. And Mike and Chris are both friends of mine today. So, but that's part of it. Criticism is part of it. And the one thing I learned most, and I truly mean this, I listened to the critics, because I thought I had to hear what they were saying about me to get better. And it was really hard to do that. There were sleepless nights. There were nights when you got home from the stadium, let's say at midnight, and at 3 o'clock, I'm still looking at message boards talking about how terrible I was. But it helps you get better. And at some point, you say to yourself, you just have to be yourself. And I think that's when I finally turned the corner. I'm never going to be some, baseball aficionado who can break down Randy Johnson's repertoire. I'm not going to be that. But I can still be a reporter who delivers news to Yankee fans. And that's when I think it started to turn.
I mean, you didn't go and get that was a high-profile job.
Yeah, I know. No kidding. No kidding.
It was like from last to first.
Right.
In some
the
respects.
Scranton Wilkes-Barre team didn't hire me.
Right.
No.
And it wouldn't have been a bad idea maybe doing a couple pickup
Yeah, that
games there.
actually would have been probably an easier transition.
What's next for you? How do you keep pushing yourself to to maybe get to the next level? Is there another level now for you?
Yeah, and I don't know what it is, but I'm okay with that. I think I can
Really?
always get.
You're actually okay with that?
I'm okay not knowing.
Oh, not knowing.
No, I'm okay.
But you're not okay staying where you are.
No. I always push myself to be better, but things happen like that call to audition. When I said no, I'm in Jacksonville for the Super Bowl, and he said, "Can we fly you up here and fly you back?" I said, "No, I'm covering the Super Bowl for the Star Ledger." And Flip said a week later, "Hey, will you come into audition now?" So I said no to the first call, and then the second call happens. I didn't foresee that, so. I think we don't know always what's ahead of us, but I think there's something ahead, and I think I can always get better at doing my job, always, whether it's radio, where I certainly can get better, and TV, where it's a different medium, right? You have a different amount of time. You've got to be much more concise. I can always get better with working sources.
Who are your idols growing up?
Trust.
Who's giving you that direction growing up?
I loved Georgetown basketball, so I loved Patrick Ewing and John Thompson.
I would not guess that.
Yeah, I love Georgetown.
Really?
I still do. We'll see if Patrick can bring him back now.
Loved
loved Penn State. That came honestly in York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I followed Penn State. I love the Eagles first of all. Then I switched around a little bit on teams. So the NFL for me now, people say, "Who do you root for?" I don't root. I root for good stories. For me, good stories though include the Jets and Giants being good, because then I stay home. Then I get to cover relatively happy locker rooms, and that's what I do enjoy that. But we'll see. But
That's your favorite sport, football?
Football, basketball was as well growing up. I loved the NBA. I loved college football.
Why basketball? Where's that? You played?
I played as a kid. I played.
played.
Like I said, I loved Georgetown, so we got all of their games back then in York, Pennsylvania. Wasn't DirecTV back then. It was cable TV, but we got them all,
Oh, yeah.
and I watched them all. And I cried when Villanova beat them in '85. So,
Oh, God, what a game.
Yeah, what a game. So, I loved, who else did I love? I loved Cal Ripken, because we had the Orioles influence there. I loved any number of the Eagles, including Ron Jaworski.
Everybody loved the Jaw.
Everyone loves Jaws. It was.
Did you have a role model though on the woman on the broadcasting? Somebody that mentored you? Like I was like Linda Cohen is like the anchor.
Yeah, but I never had that. This
never
was
had that
never part
rapport
of
with
my
her.
vision.
Oh, right, to be an
It
anchor.
was never part of my
More
vision.
Sports
It was
Illustrated.
it was sports. I couldn't wait to see if Gary Smith or Frank DeFord wrote and what Rick Riley wrote in the back. You know what I mean? Like that was me.
Do you feel like
as a
Frank
writer.
DeFord really got his due?
No, he's so. Oh no, so
I don't
talented.
think he got his due.
So talented. You saw his byline. And immediately
Talk
you're
about
reading.
honesty, the
Yes.
truth, getting it right.
Yes.
Right?
Right. And just having that flair, Gary Smith with the even longer form stories that were just
Miss
awesome.
that.
Yeah, I do miss. I miss Sports
that,
Illustrated
right?
being Sports Illustrated. Yeah.
Because that was the Bible that would come out. There was always a
Yep.
story that you'd never even knew about or thought about, and they were grinding,
Right.
and they were kind of 60 minutes for sports.
Yes,
kinda,
they were
right?
very much so in print.
Right.
And I loved Chrissy and Martina. I loved tennis. I played tennis as a kid. I loved them. Love them.
And what they stood for. You know, you missed that too.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. And the
Especially-
rivalry.
especially
They went about it differently, obviously, but both champions, both successful.
So the next step for you is up in the air. And would it surprise you to at some point be an anchor, or would it surprise you to have your own show on a regular basis on TV or radio, or
On radio, I don't think it would surprise me.
because you just got that well dug already?
Yeah, because we've visited about those things, so you don't know if they're going to come around again, but they could. TV, I don't know that anyone, including myself, sees me as a host on television. I like to interview people.
Okay.
But in terms of host, teleprompter, all of that stuff, I'm so much more off the cuff. I talk with my hands. I talk with body language. I'm not sure I translate to that. But it's okay. I'm okay with that. None of this is said with any regret. I'm very lucky and happy.
Travel still a lot with the NFL Network? or not as
I
much?
travel a good deal, not as much as baseball because that's impossible, but I travel a good deal. I spent a lot of time the last few years with the Patriots, especially later in the season because they've been so successful. I'll see them during training camp. I'll see the Redskins during training camp, Bills, obviously Jets and Giants, and we'll see who else.
Is there a hard part about your job? Is there something what's the most difficult thing you do?
I think when I'm asked that, I think to myself, no one wants to sit around and hear me complain about my job. And I don't have many complaints. I've said that to bosses who, every year or so they'll check in with you, or more than once a year, or you'll go out. My office is out in LA, so you'll go out there. Or, they kind of want to take the temperature. And I'll sit down in an office and say, I don't have anything to complain about. And they'll say, well, then let's just have a conversation. And I love it.
Yeah.
I'm lucky.
She's feeling upbeat.
And I'm happy. Yeah, absolutely.
Life's good.
Life is good.
For everybody out there, she's somebody to watch. Believe me, this is not going to be the end all. I get that feel. I like the progress, and that's what I always look for with people. Like when I see people progressing along the way, and I also know, and I love the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Yankee,
yep.
But it's a lot of work. At that 162 game.
It is, and they
on the road, and you got to look great. You got to look great.
Try to look great every day. Humidity just kills you, though. The hair.
You're on the field, the dirt.
I'll tell you a Derek Jeter story. We're in Kansas City one year. I can't remember which year. It doesn't matter. My last season was 2011, so it was 10 or 11 probably. And Derek and I were talking before the game, and I'm complaining. I was complaining. It was so humid. It's like split pea soup in Kansas City in August. It was August. And I said to him, I remember the teal shirt I was wearing. It was cut off, the sleeves right about here. Not cut off, but the sleeves were like cap sleeves. I still have it in my closet. And we're talking before the game, and I'm like, the thing that stinks is the humidity's going to kill my hair, and I'm going to have armpit stains from sweat by the time the game starts. I swear to God, this is true. He goes out for the... had to be the bottom of the ninth. They're winning because they're winning. They go out in the bottom of the ninth. He turns around, sees me in the camera well because I'm there to do a walk-off interview if the Yankees win, and he points to his armpits as he runs to shortstop position. I laughed so hard. And believe me, I had sweated through my shirt.
Oh yeah, if he could find something to kind of give you a little bit.
And he always did. He'll give you a little nudge.
Your discomfort can make his comfortability to another level, right?
Yep. And when he jokes with you, he likes you.
Yes. Yep. And also it's fun that he always kept everything kind of normal.
Yep.
There wasn't any you had to be afraid of what you were going to ask him or whatever. If he didn't want to answer your question, he just wouldn't.
Right. I've always thought early on, Brandon, he set a tone in that clubhouse as the captain that helped me. Randy Johnson was someone he couldn't help. I get that. A couple others here and there he probably couldn't help. But the guys who cared about Derek Jeter and the way he presented himself, which was most
of the guys cared.
The majority of the guys saw him treat me, someone who wasn't some baseball historian, baseball aficionado. They saw him treat me respectfully, and I've always thought that was a big deal.
He was the ultimate respect guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a hashtag to that effect, Brandon.
He's the ultimate respect guy. I mean, that's his thing. Give the respect, get the respect, and and to be a Yankee is special. And there have been a few guys that have come through, and usually the pain that you feel was the pain that I felt. Mm-hmm. Usually, if they were kind of giving you the hard time, they were probably putting me right behind you, like I ain't doing that Steiner thing.
Right.
And I've had my moments with guys that I'm just really need therapy over probably, but you get through it. And it's a blessing when you think about it.
Absolutely.
Just to be in that old stadium and just you think about where you've been through, who you've been through it with. It's never going to take that away.
Right.
Is there a book at some point?
I've thought about that. You know what I wish? I wish in my Yankee years I would have kept a diary.
You didn't do the diary.
I didn't do a diary. Just even a few sentences on some days rather than a whole chapter on. Obviously, I wouldn't have been able to write a chapter a day, but had I just written some things down, it would be great. I would write.
I kept it.
You did?
Yeah, I
kept it. Are you going to write a book? Another book?
I have a third book coming out in 2 months.
Okay.
That's completely different. That has a bunch of Yankee stories in there. But if I did the complete book, it's going to have to probably be the retirement book.
Okay.
Because the guys, it's always borderline. I don't know if I want to give up that.
Right. I'd prefer to go fiction, but base it on some things I've seen and done.
That's a little bit where I went with this third book.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's more of from everything I've learned from high level of success, that is not what it's cracked up to be kind of thing.
Right.
Which is what scares. When people come to me and say, oh, wow, you're doing this, you're doing that. I'm like, hey, everything's great. I'm not complaining. But come on. You think that there's nobody getting a free ride here. I mean, you don't think I'm dealing with all kinds of insanity? But what's not so much for me, what I feel is that what people misunderstand with the celebrity and the athlete, the insanity that they go through, the twists and turns, the distrust, who's your friend, and all the side deals that you think are great deals, and people get taken advantage.
Oh, I'm sure. Right.
Imagine being those guys, and then 20 years later you're broke, and you go, what happened there? That kind of thing. But so that's more of this book is, hey, it's good to make a lot of money. It's good to have some success and fame, but you got to watch the other pillars and keep yourself grounded, which I thought the core four did probably one of the better jobs.
As a group?
Keeping their money.
4 players?
Yeah. Keeping their minds, keeping their money, keeping it all
Keeping
kind of
the
real.
reputations. Yeah.
Pretty good when you think about 4 superstars.
Yeah.
Or 5, really. If you had Bernie, it really didn't get much trouble at all.
Right.
If at all.
Right.
Pretty good.
Yeah, I'll say.
Hey, keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank
Kim
you very much,
Jones,
Brandon.
WFAN,
Thank you.
NFL Network. Keep up the good work. Great to meet you. Really,
Thank
I don't
you.
know if we ever
I
really
appreciate
met.
it, Brandon, very
It's
much.
good to see you.